Good Wednesday evening, everybody. I want to welcome you here to the Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So this is Wednesday night. It's time for favorites. I've chosen a kind of an interesting topic for today. I decided that I wanted to do this year. I was going to do it last year, and I kind of put it off because there was too many things going on. But this year I decided I want to do it. So what I'm doing is I'm picking my 25 most dominating groups for this year. These are not my favorites. They're maybe not the best bands, but they're the ones that dominated my year. That's basically the category. So I came to this determination by going over my playlist, what bands had lots of albums in there, what albums did well there, and I've tried to pick the albums out that have done the best for these bands for the year. Also, what stuff I was listening to the most, what albums I bought the most of, what bands I bought the most albums from, so to speak. And so I tried to kind of look at each band and kind of decide which one fits in the top spot and then so on down. It took quite a bit of time. I was working on this last night. Well, actually, I've been thinking about it for about a week, but I was working on it primarily last night, and I've been working on it since I got home tonight. Try to put this band. I'm pretty confident that I got the 25 that I think deserve to be here. I even went over some of my top favorite bands of all time to see how they ranged in there. And just kind of looked over my list a bit, and then I made and also added a few honorable mentions for the end. So I'm hoping that people understand this is just my own particular stuff that I've been listening to and that were dominant for me for this year. Next year could be a wholly different stack of bands, depends on what's happening. But for this year, for 2024, these are the most dominant bands that I listen to through the year. That also doesn't mean that they're bands that came out this year, or they are about the albums that came out this year. That's going to be a different video that I'm going to do at the end of the year. I'm going to do a top 20 favorite albums for the year 2024, but that'll be the last week of the year. This one is, as I said, the 25 most dominating bands for me this year. I gave you the criteria. And so we're going to get started here. This is going to probably come out a little bit later because, as you can imagine, it took me a lot longer. I got home from work and started working on it right away. Had some baseball to look through as well. And so I put these in the stack. I got all the albums together. We're good to go. And I'm going to do this the way I always do it. For those of you who watch my show, I'm pretty standard with the rest of how this is done on YouTube. I'm going to rank them from my least favorite to my most favorite, or worst to first, or 25th to first. So all the ones that are on here are good, though. There's no bad stuff. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on here. That top 25, there's lots of bands that I listened to a few times, and they wouldn't be recommended for this. So we're going to start with number 25. At the end, I will give you the list backwards again, so I'll give it to you from the top to the bottom. But to start out, we're going to give you from the bottom to the top. Then I'll go from the top to the bottom, and I'll give you a few honorable mentions at the end as well. Okay, I better get a drink because my throat will dry out halfway through this. So I'm going to try to be fairly quickly about this, not say a ton of stuff because it's just going to take forever if I do. So the first band on this list will be the Beatles. This was the album that was in my playlist the longest, so this is the one that I decided to use as a reference or as a prop for the Beatles. The Beatles are going to come in at number 25. I've been listening to a fair bit of Beatles this year, I have to admit. I've got almost the entire collection now. It's just a couple of albums missing. And a couple, I think maybe 3 of them have been in my playlist, and this one has probably done the best. So the Beatles for number 25. I'm going to do it this way so I'm not in the way here. So number 24, Paul Simon. This was probably the big one for me for this year. I think he had a couple of albums in there. Also been listening to some Art Garfunkel and Simon, so I've kind of been in that Simon mood. I've got maybe 2 or 3 albums I purchased for him this year. So he's going to come in here at number 24. Number 23, Triumph. Probably would have been higher, but I only purchased I think I only purchased the 2 albums this year. This one and Progressions of Power, which is I haven't listened to since I got it. So hopefully I'll do that this week. Yeah, this album did very well. It just didn't have enough albums in the playlist. They didn't have enough new albums purchased, and they weren't maybe as dominant as some other bands, but definitely deserve to be on the list. Number 23, Triumph. Number 22, pretty close with Triumph, but just edged them out. We've got King Crimson here. I chose this album. I had Lizards in there, and Islands is currently in there, but probably this one did the best of those three that were on my playlist. I purchased I think I purchased Islands and maybe one other live album this year from. So I didn't purchase a lot of stuff from because I have a lot of stuff that I purchased last year. So coming in here at number 22, King Crimson. At number 21, Nectar. So this was the big one easily for them this year. Last year, or when I first started with them, was Tab in the Ocean, and then I've gone through a few of them. But this one pretty much was the only one I've really listened to a lot this year. Some of the other stuff is going to get its turn soon, but this one was the big one. So Nectar coming here at number 21, right? So next up, number 20 is Yes. Yes, I know this album came out last year, but it really got the bulk of its playlist time this year. Also, Fly From Here was in there. A couple of other albums are coming up to go in there. I bought a whole bunch of stuff by them this year, so they got a lot of marks for that. So Yes, again, coming in here at number 20. Number 19. This was the only one I owned by them, but it did very well. Again, it was purchased last year, but listened to a lot this year and on my playlist for a fairly lengthy time. Did fairly well. It was my number 1 album last year for the new album, so I wanted to give them some more credit here, and that's Riverside. This is their ID and Entity album. That's number 19. So number 18 is Eloy. Eloy's had a couple of albums on the playlist for me this year, this being the one that did the best. I think I purchased like 4, maybe 5 of their albums this year, so they did well in that. And I spent a fair bit of time listening to them too, so I knew they had to be on the list. I knew they would be. I wasn't quite sure where until I looked them over a bit, and they come in here at number 18. Number 17, IQ. This was the only one that went in my playlist by them this year. But of course, you know that I love some of their other stuff too. And I now have one that's waiting its turn, plus another one I just purchased. So I think I bought 3 this year. This one, actually, I think I've had this one for a while. So those other 2 I purchased. Not an easy band to find their albums. Bought almost all of them from Laser's Edge. In fact, I believe I bought them all from Laser's Edge. Really good. This one was a great album. Did very well. So here at number 17, IQ. So next up, we have in the 16th spot is Styx. Yes, quite a few Styx albums. All of them on the Wooden Nickel label. So I bought this collection of the Wooden Nickel albums, all 4 of them. And I think I bought a live one by them. And I think I may have bought one other by them. But I had them, they've been in my playlist pretty consistently since I put the first one in, and I've been doing them in cycles. So for Styx 1, Styx 2, and now Serpent Rising, and then of course Man of Miracles will go last when its turn comes. So Styx coming here at number 16, did I say? Let me see. Yeah, number 16. So now number 15. Yeah, so number 14. No, sorry, number 15. Yeah, I was right. Number 15 is Hackney. Well, this is the Rolling Stones. They had a few albums in the list this year, this one being one. Sticky Fingers was in the list. The Button one, what's it called? I'm drawing a blank on it. But anyways, I think this one did the best, so I used it as a representation. But this year I went from 2 Rolling Stones albums to about 12, so I bought a ton of stuff by them. I listened to them quite a bit this year, and that was a good album as well. So that's number 15. Number 14, Steely Dan. This is probably my favorite Steely Dan album. It was in the playlist this year along with Katie Lied and I believe Asia. I think those 3 were the ones that were in the playlist. I probably bought maybe 4 or 5 of their albums this year. They did very well overall, and so they had to get on this list. So they're number 15. Number 14. Number 13, Thin Lizzy. I only got maybe 2 albums from them. One of them is Waiting Its Turn. This one was in the playlist. They did pretty well with this album. The other one's going to do probably just as well. And this is, of course, Thin Lizzy and the Jailbreak album. So they're number 13. So on to the top 12 stack. So this one gets a little interesting. So a lot of these bands are fairly close at this point in time. I don't think there's much separating from the 13th down to the 25th. Maybe a little bit, but not too much. Even this one probably falls into that category. So Black Sabbath's 13 was the album that I listened to the most, but I did listen to quite a bit of Sabbath this year. There wasn't many in the playlist. I think the last one in the playlist was probably Dehumanizer, and I believe that was last year. So yeah, this one made up to my favorite album. At one point, it was my favorite album. And so Black Sabbath gets a mention here, coming in at number 12. Number 11, Hawkwind. So this album is entitled In Search of Time and Space. The other one is, which is currently on the list, is also pretty similar in title. Let's see if I can find it here. I think this is it here. Nope, that's not it. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. So this one's called In Search of Time and Space, and this one is called Sounds from Time and Space, I think. Oh no, Stories from Time and Space and Into Time and Space. So it was a little bit confusing for me. This one should have actually been first because I always put the new albums in the playlist immediately when they come, as soon as they're able to get a spot. I thought this one was the new one, but it actually wasn't. It's an older one, but it's a good album. So it's the one I chose to represent. They had a couple of others that I listened to. I bought maybe 3 or 4 albums by them this year. I guess I could have put in Warriors of Time. I could have put that one in because I think it probably was a better album than this one, but I like this one too, so I'm just going to leave it in there. So anyways, number 11, Hawkwind. Number 10, so we're now to the top 10 albums. All these bands very well. So now there's a big separation. So those ones that you just heard up till then, not too much separating them. These are the first ones that really are separated from them quite a bit. So Wobbler, this being the big album for them right now. The other thing that helped them is that the singer from Wobbler was also on the Chronicles of Father Robin, so he gets a little bit more credit for that. I bought this one. I have another one waiting its turn in the playlist. This is a band I like a lot. I listen to them quite a bit. This album is done well. I listen to it quite a bit. Still in my playlist. So Wobbler going to come here at number 10. So number 8, a band that we all know that we love. I love this band, and that's Gentle Giant. Now, I don't think this album was I think it might have been in the playlist early on in the year. I just chose it because I think it's just such a fantastic album. They did also have Freehand, and there was one other one that was in there. There's one in there. Now, yeah, the album I should have used was their debut album. That one did very well with me. This one actually I think was last year, but since I had it in my hand, I decided to use it anyway. So their debut album, Octopus is currently in there, and Freehand was also in the list for this year. Plus, I bought a couple more. I listen to them fairly regular as one of my regular listening to bands. So I knew they had to be on the list, and I decided that they belonged here. The number 9 spot, Gentle Giant. The number 8 spot actually surprised me. I thought about it. I thought about this album. I thought about some of the stuff I bought. This album did very well for me. I've listened to this band quite a bit earlier on in the year, not so much towards the end of the year, although they did have Nude in there, and I just bought another one. So Camel's got to be in here. This is a fantastic album. I really like it a lot. Maybe this one and the Gentle Giant debut albums are two of my favorite this year. So, so Camel coming here at number, where are we now? 8, yeah. So now we're down to like just the top 7. Big jump now again to this album by Marillion. This one was a big time album for me in the playlist. I bought 4 Marillion albums this year, including, I think this one was right near the beginning of the year. I may have bought it last year, but it was on the playlist, along with Clutches with Straws, which also did very well. And then I've got Fugazi, and I just recently purchased Script for a Jester's Tear, which was the first one I ever owned in vinyl. And so, I like all 4 of those albums quite a bit. And for Marillion, it was a good year. They come in at number 7. Number 6, this is the only album by them I own. I wasn't even sure I liked it. The album's done amazingly well for me since it's been in the playlist. Been one of my favorite albums. Really come on. I love the artwork. I love the band. I love the album. Definitely there'll be a lot more of these guys going forward. This is number 6, Caravan. Number 5 is The Chronicles of Father Robin. This is the first album. Did very well for me in the playlist. It was there a very long time. I bought the other one, so I got 2 of them. I listened to both albums quite a bit. I'm still trying to get the third one, the middle one, so that one is on my list to get. Like this band a lot. I love the sound of the instrumentation, very early 70-ish sounding instruments, so very well done. The vocals are fantastic. This guy has a very John Anderson range voice. You wouldn't confuse him with John Anderson, but he does very much in that range. So number 4 is The Chronicles of Father Robin. The top 4, this was so this one, the last one, this one, and the next one were all very close. I wasn't quite sure which way I wanted to go. I think I chose the right way. This is a little bit better. This one's currently in my playlist. Iron Maiden, they've had a couple up there for me this year. This one just really surprised me a lot. Very dominating album. I've been listening to more. I bought a lot of their stuff this year too, maybe 4 or 5 albums. So I've gotten right back into them. They were kind of, the first couple of years, I wasn't really listening to them much. I thought maybe they're passe for me. But then this album really brought me back to them. So Iron Maiden in number 4 spot. Edged out only slightly by Judas Priest. And I think the reason Judas Priest gets the nod is that these 2 albums are both very good. I think this one might be a little bit better, but Judas Priest had a few other albums that were in the playlist that I liked a lot. They've got a bunch that I'm still listening to. I bought a bunch of their stuff this year too. So listened to them a lot. Really have made a huge impact this year. They may be one of the best bands, biggest comebacks for me. Judas Priest in the number 3 spot. Top two bands, I think, were fairly easy. The one band, I bought 4 or 5 of their albums. This band, number 2. This album was absolutely one of the best. It came out last year. It was my number 2 album last year. If it had come out earlier, if I'd listened to it earlier, probably would have easily been number 1. And some of the other stuff has done reasonably well as well. So we're talking about Uriah Heep, Chaos in Color. This is the Chaos in Color album. The band did very well, so they're my number 2 band this year. Really made a huge impact. Between them, Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, they're all heavy bands, really cementing that heavy metal sound again for me. So number 2. Number 1, this was a landslide. This band was way ahead. They had lots. I purchased a ton of stuff this year, maybe as many as 10 or maybe more albums by them. Some of their albums have done extremely well in my playlist. At times, they've had as many as 3 or 4 albums. They've got 3 going. They've got 2 in there now, another one waiting its turn, a couple more in the woods, plus the 3 that. So this one is representing that. Jethro Tull, Stormwatch was maybe the best of those 3 albums, but they all did very well, those 3 albums. Really cementing. This band went from being, at the beginning of the year, they were probably my 6th favorite band, and now they're up to my 2nd. They passed some long-time bands that have been up there longer for a long time to move into 2nd. I don't think they'll catch Rush. That'd be impossible almost. But they've done very well. Easily the best band for the year for me. The most listened to, the most bought albums, done the best on the playlist, just dominating band. So Jethro Tull, my number 1 for this year. So I'm just going to reiterate them now. So number 1 was Jethro Tull. Number 2 was Uriah Heep. Number 3, Judas Priest. Number 4, Iron Maiden. Number 5, The Chronicles of Father Robin. Number 6, Caravan. Number 7, Marillion. Number 8, Camel. Number 9, Gentle Giant. Number 10, Wobbler. Number 11, Hawkwind. And number 12, Black Sabbath. Now bring the other stack over. Number 13, Thin Lizzy. Number 14, Steely Dan. Number 15, The Rolling Stones. Number 16, Styx. Number 17, IQ. Number 18, Eloy. Number 19, Riverside. Number 20, Yes. Number 21, 21, that doesn't make sense. What did I do wrong? 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, I did. Oh, no, I'm right. Sorry, I thought there was an extra album in there. So 21, Nectar. Number 22, King Crimson. Number 23, Triumph. Number 24, Paul Simon, And last but not least, the Beatles for number 25. Yeah, sorry. I thought there was another album there. I thought, wait, that's 6 albums. There should only be 5 left. Well, there was only 5 left. So that's the problem with doing a 25 list. It's really difficult to keep everything sorted properly. But anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of my favorite, or actually it's an episode of my most dominant album or most dominant bands for this year, for the year 2024. So let's say that one more time. My most dominant bands for the 2024 year. Not necessarily new bands, not necessarily old bands, but just the bands that I listened to the most, bought the most stuff, and were in my playlist the most. So that's generally the 3 categories in which I decided on. So I hope you've enjoyed this. It was kind of fun to do. It's something I thought was a little bit different rather than just doing my favorites all the time, because then you just get the same stuff all the time. So I wanted to give I guess this is kind of my favorites for the year, right? So anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit the like and subscribe. If you want to see more of this stuff, hit the notification bell above my head. And if you want to give your 25 most listened to bands this year, or your most dominant bands, or your favorite bands for this year, you can put those all in the comment section below. And, you want to talk a little bit about them, you can do that as well. I try to read everything that people send me. And, I've had a few people deciding to take shots at me or trolling me or whatever you want to call it. But, it's just bound to happen in this type of thing. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We will be back next Wednesday night with another favorites. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. I only have a couple episodes left, so I'm trying to get some of my top favorite things. We will be doing a top 20 favorite albums released in 2024 at some point, probably the last week. I may do a Christmas special next week. That's likely what I'm going to do. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We will see you next week. Take care and have yourself a good evening. Goodbye.